everybody. This is Dr. Fred Johnson. I'm the founder of InitiativeOne here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where we work with leaders all over the country and the world, helping them to transform the way they think, to transform the way they behave, to transform the results that they want in their lives. I am so pleased to have one of my colleagues, a dear friend, one of our teammates here at InitiativeOne, Dr. Phil Ertl. Phil has very quickly become a pivotal part of our organization. He is in charge of, he's vice president of the educational division. We work with public school divisions all over the country, and Phil is a major reason why we are having such an increase in impact in that area. It is a delight to have you, my friend, and I'm glad that you're here. Little side note, Phil's son, Austin, is he a defensive guard or a defensive tackle?
Defensive tackle.
He is the captain of the Miami of Ohio football team, which won the Mid-American Conference Championship against Toledo last week. They tied the school record for most wins in a season. He is a talented player, but it's been really awesome to see. And I want to give a shout out to Austin and your teammates. Well done, and go Red Hawks. And so, Phil, just talk to us. It used to be that in the society that we had many years ago, it was not unusual for people to have what is called a golden watch ceremony. A golden watch ceremony was symbolic of being at one place for 50 years. Well, those days are just about done forever. The average person has multiple careers in multiple agencies or areas of profession in their lives from the time they start their career to the time that they end. And yet, I see so many people who have dreams to do things that are new, that really are within their passion, and they're scared to death to take the leap. You have taken a leap. You've been a very successful school superintendent. How many years in two different districts?
21.
21 years.
21 years.
Your last one was 16?
16.
Which is, the average is 3.2 years. So that tells you, obviously, you were doing some really powerful, awesome things in one of the most notable school districts, Wauwatosa, in the state of Wisconsin. But you decided that you wanted to do something different. Would you share some of your story, because there are people out there that are just this far from saying, I'm going to take a leap. Talk to us about where you were in your head, and what was it that allowed you to make that commitment? The other question is, not only what was it that allowed you to make that commitment, did you have to have all of the information before you made the decision? Or did you make the commitment and the information or the clarity followed? Just talk us through your story of someone who, in the prime of their lives, have started a whole nother venture as a source of encouragement to other people.
You know, I think, excuse me, I look back, I've always been somewhat of a risk taker and willing to take risks. And I think you sum it up well, because I would make that commitment and then get the information, a lot of the information, sometimes to a fault. But I think there's also significant advantages to having that as a mindset. But I've had success. I've taken chances. I've had success. So that always stuck with me, even though I stayed for a long period of time in one position. But there was, I don't know if it was diminishing returns, but you get to the point where it's like, what kind of impact am I having? And what rings your joy bell. And when we went through Initiative One, some of those, I wasn't as engaged as I could have been to start with, for a lot of different reasons. But I look back and say, I start looking at things a little bit differently at that point, saying, what do I really want to be doing? Is this what I got into education for? Is this what my purpose is? And how do I go about really kind of living my purpose and living by my values? And I don't think I was at that point. And for me, I don't know if it was that difficult. I had faith, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I mean, I'm pretty clear now, looking back 2.5 years, I certainly didn't know what I was getting into. But I think it's a mindset. And my mindset was, I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to find a way to enjoy it. And ultimately, it's something that turned out better than you could have imagined. So I think I've always had that mindset, but I think it was certainly time for me to be able to really impact other people.
So you say you weren't on purpose, and yet you were having such a profound impact, either directly or indirectly, on thousands of people's lives. Is there a sense that maybe you were on purpose, but you needed to find a different way to see that manifested moving forward? Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was living by the noise somewhat, and not necessarily by my purpose all the time. It wasn't how I was making all my decisions like I do now. I was still guided by purpose. Obviously, it was about students. It was about making sure that there was a quality education. But you get into that position too, and you start when you start realizing that the noise is impacting you and impacting how you make decisions and how you live, that becomes problematic. So did I always have my purpose? Even as I went through this process the first time, sure, I had that, but trying to refine it and really get a better understanding. Talk about clarity. I think I have some clarity. I think I have an understanding of what I bring to the table, what I offer. I think I have a pretty good understanding of how I can help other people. And I think I have a good understanding of what I need to do to help myself as well, so I can help those other people.
So there are people out there who are considering significant life choices, life changes. What would you say to them that was helpful for you in your experience that you learned that you'd like to pass on to them?
I look back and had in hindsight, it's easy to look and say, yeah, when I've taken some chances and taken new jobs or taken some of those risks, I look back and there were good people I was associated with, and they helped in that decision. So it was an issue of trust. For example, coming here, there was a relationship, and I felt like I could trust stepping into something kind of the unknown. But it's also, we need to be risk takers. There is no growth without risk. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. And we talk all the time about let's get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's really what it is about change. I joke oftentimes that say the only person that likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. And me. I kind of, I like change. And even as I get older, I still like change, because I think if you don't not only accept but embrace change, you're not going to grow. Growing is changing. And that's kind of the whole education process that I went into it for that purpose, to get people to understand that.
So while you were making your decision, I'm hearing you say that you really had a group of people around you that you trust, that you sought their counsel, you sought their advice. What do you think about this? And it wasn't a decision that was necessarily made in a vacuum. Would that be an accurate statement?
Oh, that's very fair. I waited till my youngest son graduated from high school. I wanted my kids to have one school system to go through. So it was, the decision was not made in a vacuum at all. And a lot of discussions with my wife and some of my close friends. I'm also a person that doesn't necessarily live with regrets. I like to reflect, and I've become much more reflective as I've gotten older and more experienced. But I don't necessarily live with regrets, which has helped me in my decision making, because once I make a decision, I'm going to see that through. So I've been always pretty good with that. So it helps me in my mindset that I'm not looking backward once I make a decision. So that I think that for me has been really helpful throughout my career.
Well, I will tell you, I wish that I had the level of success in not being able to look back as well as you have. My tendency has, especially if I'm in a downtime in my life or a season that's extra difficult for whatever reason, it's real easy for me to start looking back and looking at that period that also had times of difficulty almost as a nirvana, and make it bigger than it was. And yet, if you make a decision to live your life, that once you make a commitment, you're going to give it everything you have, and there's no value in the scriptures talk about that a man who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit. I think that's what you're saying. Once you put your hand to the plow and you look forward, you're going. And you're going to give it everything you can because there's no value in reminiscing all of the what ifs. Would you say that that is a leadership mentality?
I think it's an important leadership mentality. And it's not that those things don't come up in my mind. Again, mindset is so critical in how my way of thinking. And we talk about that a lot with InitiativeOne. What's your way of thinking? How do you approach it? What's your intent? Positive intent? But for me, I control that. I mean, I have, you think about things, mistakes you made over the past, and you need to understand mistakes because that's how you grow as well, to not repeat those. So I found that balance where, yes, you reflect upon things that happened in the past and make sure that if they were great, you want to have them happen again. If not so great, you want to avoid that. And I think that's a critical part of leadership because if you think you're going to be a leader and never make mistakes, you're not a leader.
One of the things I love about you is we run into so many people. I'm in my 60s. I've seen people in their 60s just living out the string, waiting until the retirement sets in, until they're eligible for the package, just kind of floating through without passion, without almost, it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and they're stale. Their energy does not inspire anybody. One of the cool things about you is here you are, a few years younger than me. And you're not, it's like you've recommitted to a whole new race and your energy is high. You have this hunger to continue to find the next edge of how you get better. And you are a real inspiration to me in how you're able to do that. What are the benefits to you to have lived and you will always live by that mindset? Why is that so beneficial to you?
I don't know that I want to spend time in my life being miserable. Like, it's a choice. So many things in life, we have control. Our locus of control is a lot bigger than we think. And if we focus on what we have control of I take full responsibility for my happiness. I'm not going to do victim thinking. I'm not going to let anybody else control that. Does it impact me? Sure it does. Yeah. But it's the same with job satisfaction. And I've always joked around, but it's true. I always felt like I was still going to school. I wasn't going to work. And for the last 2.5 years, I just had the conversation this morning with someone. It's like, I don't have a job. I don't work. It doesn't feel like work to me. It's just fun. I enjoy doing this because when I think of what my purpose is, I'm able to fulfill my purpose and really do it in a way that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So it's not work.
What do your sons say about you making this major decision in midlife? I mean, have they ever commented to you about it, what they've seen different in Dad? I mean, what's their take on all this?
Well, I think they liked the fact that I did it. They knew it was time for a change, and as they both were out of school, I mean, I think there's some good and some bad about having your dad as a school superintendent, but for them, probably some impact. But I think they understood and saw how that impacted how it impacted our lives, and they were happy to see me change. And I know they know how I enjoy what I'm doing now, and it's pretty good to see them.
You
happy
know,
for their dad.
this is. Let me share this. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but when you are fresh and you are experiencing new things, without even realizing, you are already introducing your kids to new opportunities that they would have never had. Let me give you an example. Congratulations to Austin. He just got, I understand, an incredible job opportunity down south somewhere. I just want you to know, Austin, as you're watching this, I'm incredibly upset that you didn't make a lifetime decision to come to work here. I'm much bigger and more muscular than you are, so I'm going to go easy on you. But in all seriousness, when he was a sophomore, just starting his business, he reached out, his business training, he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he's reached out to a bunch of folks on LinkedIn. Well, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't come into your life and we hadn't developed that relationship. And so there was me, there are other people that have come into his life because of decisions that you made. And to know that he is benefiting from that, he was able to have conversations to you about business that he would not have been able to have with you 3 years ago, because it's a big leap. Even though I remember when I left the pastoral ministry many years ago, and I was a senior pastor of a very complex organization, multi-million-dollar budget. I mean, it was a significant operation. And I thought when I made the jump here that I had to be ready. I had no idea the learning curve. And you've talked about the massive learning curve. Even though you had hundreds and hundreds reporting and you had a huge budget, it was still a massive learning curve. And because you were willing to go through a massive learning curve, you introduced new learning opportunities for your son. Now, he had to embrace them, and he did embrace them. But that's what happens. It's when you're growing, it has a ripple effect on other people in your circle. And you've got to feel pretty good about that. I don't know if you've ever really given some thought to that.
No, I mean, I believe in role modeling. I believe in mentoring, and it's not like as a parent, you always are thinking top of mind of something like that, but you know that what you do and how you act impacts your kids, and sometimes you get hit across the head with it pretty quickly, and you see that too. So I'm fortunate. Like I said, the last 2.5, both my kids have been able to see me in a great place of doing something that I love to do, and I get to see them doing the work they're doing. I don't know that I can now, Austin, maybe we can have those conversations. Logan, becoming an engineer, I don't know that I can help him a whole lot. Different level of science and math.
I get it. And so let's switch subject a little bit. Why do you love what you're doing? I mean, you're in that one of those moments where you just go, oh my gosh, this is just unbelievable. I couldn't be any happier than what I'm doing right now. Describe one of those moments. When does that happen?
It happens when I leave one of the sessions we're working with. I mean, it happens often. Like it's some kind of weird rush I get that it's like that went really well, or maybe it didn't go as well. But just the idea of impact. And my purpose is providing impact and the opportunity and recognizing that the facilitation and the work we're doing has such an impact on people and a profound impact. But there's a lot of decisions that you need to make if you're going to have that kind of, if you want to have that kind of impact. And we are able, and I'm able to help people make some of those decisions to allow the impact on their lives. And that's, we talk about ringing joy bells. Mine happens all the time. And, whether I'm driving to or from a session or in the middle of it, and the challenge of trying to facilitate and trying to help people grow. And people are desperate for growth. It's really needed, certainly in education, but in all areas. Leadership, I think people aren't real sure what to think of leadership. And I think everybody is a leader, in particular when you talk education, like teachers. My goal is to get them to understand they're the ones that control the culture of a school. It's not the principal or superintendent or anything like that. So all of those moments, and they all come together often. And I do a lot of self-reflection, more than I've ever done in my life, and probably more self-talk than I certainly have ever done in my life. And those are moments that I take also to really reflect upon impact. Am I having an impact? Am I helping people? Education, you don't necessarily get to see the growth all the time. That's why I'd like to mow the lawn. You can see it. You get to see it in this. You get to see people grow. And it's not necessarily because of us. It's because of the decisions they're making. But we're helping them with it. And it's awesome to see.
So we'll have people say to us, well, I don't believe in this leadership transformation stuff because that person went through it and 5 years later he's doing some of the same stuff that he did or it didn't stick. What would you say to that person who thinks that working on growing yourself as a leader and investing in yourself through leadership transformation, who looks at it as a bunch of hocus pocus, what would you say to that individual who has that level of skeptic and they're going through life going like this, and I dare you to try to teach me something? What would you say to that individual?
So you got some problems. I would say I know where you come from. I mean, I share that with every group. Like I was a skeptic, I meditate. I do meditation. I used to joke about that.
I couldn't see you doing meditation 10 years ago. I couldn't even imagine you doing that.
But vulnerability, authenticity, what leadership is really about, that was not me. I built walls. And I led from behind those walls, and that was the way I learned. That's the way I had success early on. Like I said, I can go back and say if only, but it's all the steps that I've had in my life, and all the failings, and all the victories have led me to the person I am today, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. So I like all those experiences. But for someone that's, you gotta get over yourself. It's just the same way I had to kind of look beyond. That was just another wall and an excuse to say, that was an excuse to say, I'm not going to work on myself. If I can blow out that candle so mine shines brighter, there's some work to be done. But, I guess I'm walking proof that it can have an impact, and it's all decisions that we make in our own lives of how we want to live our lives and what kind of impact we want to have on the world.
So if you could, I asked you to think about if you could describe your leadership for that 20-year period in little one-word characteristics, what would 3 or 4 of them be?
Harried.
Okay.
Noisy.
What do you mean by that?
noisy. Like I allowed the noise to impact my leadership too much. The outside noise, the outside influences. I wasn't necessarily in a good place. I mean, I wasn't living in that 8.0 all the time. My 2.7 self, my little person would allow that to impact my leadership. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of random. There wasn't self-reflection. There wasn't time.
Is that what you meant by harried?
Yes.
Just running from fire to fire to fire to fire?
I was constantly putting out fires. And my excuse is I didn't have time to self-reflect. And that's just a bunch of baloney too, because it's all a matter of choices. You take the time. If something's important, do you exercise? Yeah, I take the time to do that in the mornings. Do you do? I mean, we all make choices, and it all comes down to that. Do I make the choices to spend on my own leadership? Yep, now I do. And I should have before, but I've made excuses as to why I don't have time. I'm too busy doing this. But, you know, the Pareto principle, where are you going to put your time, and what kind of impact, and where are you going to have your impact? So there's a lot to be learned through transformation to say, well, I could just have a lot more impact and be in a lot better place myself.
I bet there are a lot of people who are watching this who are going, man, I can identify. I know what it means to be constantly firefighting every day in my life. And that it feels like I'm reacting to everybody's expectations and all the noise. And it feels like your life isn't your own. How has that changed?
Pretty dramatically. I mean, I feel, and it doesn't come down to outside influences as much as I used to think it would be influenced because there's a school board or there's a community that is telling me what I need to, no, it's my choice. And it's, how do I feel about myself, my own leadership? How do I approach my life? And then how do I approach my interactions with the people I work with, the people I live with, the people I interact with? That has such there's clarity. I mean, and again, that's one of those things that I would have laughed at myself 20 years ago if I said I have clarity, but I have clarity in my life that I understand the impact I have. The things are just, when you live by purpose, that you can have clarity because you know where you're going.
So I'm going to ask you one last question. Think about, you've been working with some pretty high-profile school districts. What's been your biggest satisfaction? What's been that moment that you went, yeah, this was all worth it?
Well, there's been a lot of those. You just see people that want to change, have success with change. You see the indicators when there's little indicators of what's the perception of our leadership or perception of our district, or a student achievement data point that all of a sudden goes up and is impacted, or a school perceptions survey result that jumps up, and it's like it reinforces the work. And when you see people that get reinforced for the time, effort, and energy that they put in and the risks they're taking to go through this, that's pretty rewarding when you get to see it, whether it's a smile on the face or just an acknowledgement that there's some success with it.
I think one of my favorite in working with you was the one school district who came to us, and the superintendent said the year that he came, their HR department had like 812 complaints from people in the various buildings about their principals because they wouldn't address issues. The morale was low. People were going, what are we doing around here? We need leadership, all that stuff. And yet, a year and a half later, the data had gone from 812 to under 30. I think the number was actually lower than that. It was so low that at first I didn't believe it. I mean, here we are having these results, and we're not even believing our own results because they're so strong. But so in order for that to happen, you had to have a lot of people who began to find their voice, who began to grow in their confidence to do hard things better, to have momentous conversations that they would have skipped before. And then to see the morale scores just leapfrog beyond what it was. That is impact, man. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of our team by being such a strong leader. I learn from you all the time. And is there any parting words that you would want to say to our audience?
Just a thank you to all the people that we work with. We don't work with the bottom tier of school leaders. We work with people that are really good and are continually focused on wanting to get better. And when they have that focus, it's just amazing to watch that happen. The people that really need it sometimes don't think they do. And unfortunately so anyway, I just really appreciate the people that we're working with and their dedication to change.
Thanks, Phil. I want to say to all of you, thank you for taking the time to tune in on this, to find us on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're finding us, and the platform that you're using. It makes we're just thrilled that you care enough about your leadership, that you're looking for those voices in your life to help you be better and do better. And we hope that we'll see you at our next podcast. And Phil, it's great to see you, brother.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Good luck at the next bowl game. When is that? Next Saturday?
16th, Cure Bowl.
Cure Bowl. And
get 'em.
And
Go
you
Red
can
Hawks.
watch it on which network?
ABC.
ABC. Okay. Go Red Hawks. Go Phil. Go Ertls. Talk to you later, buddy. See you all later. Bye-bye.